Welcome everyone to ErgoHack 5. My team as well as the GuapSwap team had come together just to, kind of just openly discuss what's up and coming as far as ErgoHack 5 is concerned. And also talk about a little bit about some of the recent activities that have gone on with the recent Ethereum merge, as well as talk about tools and some, unique use cases that could be built from some of the learnings from the merge, and also what tools are miners looking for as Ergo continues to develop. So before we dive in, why don't we do a few introductions? I'll start off. So I'm Robert Coed. I'm with the GetBlock.io team. I've been with the team for about a year now, working with both our partners Karat as well as Vinny Lima. So Karat, I'll hand it off to you and you give a brief introduction.
Yep. Hey guys, I'm Karat. I'm kind of the main developer at GetBlock.io, and I've been working with them for about a year now, helping to develop some things like subpooling, smart pools, all that.
Thanks. Luca, you want to
go? Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Luca. I'm the developer at GuapSwap. We started out around ErgoHack 3, and that's where I met my other partners, Jesper and George.
All right, thanks. And then last but not least, Jesper, why don't you jump in and introduce yourself?
Hey, my name is Jesper Ergo. I'm a miner and one of the co-founders of GuapSwap. And yeah, like Lucas said, we've been working on this profit swapping thing since ErgoHack 3, and very passionate about the mining community of Ergo.
No, that's great. And then why don't one of you, either yourself or Luca, why don't you give a brief overview of what GuapSwap is, how you guys kind of came to Ergo? Because I think, it may be a nice tie-in, right, since this is an ErgoHack event. And just explain a little bit about the dApp that you've built and, some of the use cases behind it.
Maybe I can start with a brief overview, and then Luca can go into the details.
Sure.
So basically, as a miner, the tax jurisdiction I'm in is very complicated when it comes to swaps. And I was mining Ethereum like from March to August last year. And when I started thinking about the end of Ethereum, I started looking around for alternatives. And Ergo came up as like a very long down the list of what to mine, like a very obscure coin. And I had tried to get into other projects. And the more I learned about Ergo, the more interesting it was. But I was very frustrated how difficult it was to get into DeFi where I am, because every time you make a swap, it gets taxed as new income. And when I started learning about the smart contract capabilities of Ergo, I thought, wouldn't it be smart if you could make a smart contract that could actually swap your profits before they hit your wallet? And I started asking around in the Ergo community, and people were like, yeah, it sounds like a good idea, but, we're all doing our own things. So I had to go questing for someone to help me build the project. And luckily I found Luca attending the community education program called Deco. And we kind of just decided that this was our project for Deco and entered ErgoHack 3. And now it's we have a running beta version that can actually swap your miner profits, something that's open source that you run on your own computer. And that's kind of cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I use it myself, so I think it was, a really innovative dApp. It's building tooling for miners, right? You don't see a lot of that these days. You do see a lot, built around DeFi in general, but to position something that is, directly geared towards miners, I think it's an amazing thing. And I love to see, people kind of out there building and continuing to build for miners, because at the end of the day, if you think about it, the miners are kind of the backbone of a blockchain, right? They're the ones that are supporting the network. They're the ones investing in infrastructure to kind of, keep the system flowing, right? So well said. One thing I do want to touch on, and maybe you can give a little overview on this as well, is, it's an interesting story how and we've kind of done the same, but you start with an initial concept, right? And, able to kind of enter into the community and explore and find talent and bring that to fruition. And I think that in itself is, really powerful within the Ergo community. And I think, a lot of projects have been able to kind of evolve in that same fashion. So, if you could just give a little bit more about kind of how that process went, how you took it to ErgoHack 3, and further than that, how the community and the Ergo Foundation themselves continue to support the development of GuapSwap.
Well, basically, I was forced to learn myself. I'm not a developer by trade. I'm actually a physical therapist.
Sure.
Just found my way into a lot of different fields, but I was like, okay, I'm gonna build this myself, even though I probably knew that I wasn't gonna be able to do it myself. But the Deco initiative allowed me to learn the basics, and it's like a free initiative from the community where you can learn the basics, and also an advanced course which is free. I started learning about the basics and pitching my idea, participating in chats in the Ergo Discord in the developer tab, and basically the community is very open. Like you'll have very frequent contact with the core devs like Kushti and Unreal and Mr. Stahlfelge and all those guys. So the community is very open. People are very helpful, willing to answer questions. And since everything is open source, even though I will say that one of the hard things about the Ergo community right now is people are building. Everyone is building right now, so documentation is kind of like a second priority.
Yeah.
So there's you have to reverse engineer a lot of the stuff, which is what we did with the contracts from ErgoDex that kind of powers GuapSwap. But luckily, all the people from the community are very willing to answer questions. So even though you have to kind of read and reverse engineer a lot of stuff yourself, you can ask people. And right now, the Ergo community has like different. There are two small grants right now for small projects. There's the Dark Zero Fund and there's the Goodwill Fund, which you can apply. There's like an application process through the forum, and now you can launch stuff via ErgoPad. So like the whole community is very open, and more platforms and funding alternatives are cropping up all the time. So it's like, if you have an idea, like it's pretty much guaranteed. That's a big word. I know the G word for guarantee, but it's a pretty high probability that you will find someone who's interested in helping you. And the community, the launchpad at ErgoPad, the grants and whatever, and the Ergo Foundation in general are very helpful for open source projects that kind of benefit the community.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, the way I look at it, and maybe this, is a weird way of looking at it, but it's almost like a self-sustaining system to allow developers and, miners alike to enter the ecosystem, come up with an original concept and build on it, right, with the support of the community, and really see that come to fruition, get funding, launch it through, ErgoPad, and have that Launchpad initiative. So, I mean, for me, it's and maybe biased because we are building in the community, but it's been a really rewarding experience to see, not only our project but projects like yours just develop from that initial concept all the way to something that people are using on a daily basis. So for me, that's what mainly brought me into Ergo, and why I continue to build within the ecosystem. So I think overall, it really is a great ecosystem to build in. And as miners and other developers are looking to to build or to get involved with say ErgoHack 5, I think that it's a really good background to understand, because they can kind of copy or mimic that process for themselves, and potentially create their own software or their own developments themselves. So with that said, Luca, why don't you jump in, talk a little bit about, how you kind of came into play here and, what brought you to Ergo and what made you decide to start developing within this space?
Yeah, so I guess like a lot of people, I came into Ergo from Cardano. I had watched a bunch of like YouTube videos with Charles and the Lex Friedman like 5 hour podcast, and that's where he had mentioned Ergo, and I heard about it for the first time. So I had looked into it. And when I did more research, I found that it was much like easier to get started for developing things on Ergo than it was in Cardano. And then at the same time, I had heard about Deco that was just starting, and so I thought it would be cool to just join and see what it was like. And that's where I met Jesper and George. And part of the class was we had to make like a team to make a project, a small project, with what we learned. And so that's how we got together as a team. And they wanted to do something that would help miners out. And so that was the idea for GuapSwap. And I was like, okay, seems like a cool idea. It doesn't seem like super complicated, like for a first like project to do, because I didn't really know anything at all about like ErgoScript or EUTXO or anything like that. And the class was overlapping at the same time during ErgoHack 3, so it was a good opportunity, sort of like just a good excuse to work on the project, and we had submitted a proposal. And that's where I also met Kirat as well. Like during that time, I didn't know who he was, but he was helping us out with our proposal. We didn't finish, but it was just a good place to get started, which was really nice.
Yeah, and I think that's actually a really good point. So, as people are looking to enter ErgoHack and participate, really it starts with an idea, right? It starts with an idea, a proposal, so to speak. You submit that proposal, but it doesn't necessarily like people, I think, they look at ErgoHack or any hackathon and they're like, oh my God, I got to get all this work done and there's a limited amount of time and I'm not going to make it, so I'm not interested. Well, that's really not what it's about. I think that, come up with the concept, submit your proposal, and start building, start finding a team, start, looking into it, start kind of proving out your use case. And that could be enough to potentially win, right? I don't think that the expectation is to have a, final package completed, fully tested, validated, all the security measures have been gone through. I don't think that's the intention. I think the intention is to kind of, kickstart an idea, right? And get that idea out there, get some support behind it. You also gain some validation from the community, whether or not it is a good idea and it's something that people are interested in. And I think it will come back full circle. So don't don't shy away just because you think that, oh, I don't have the resources to get this done. I think that it's proven that the community will jump in and help support. And if the idea is warranted, I think that it's a good way to kind of get involved with the community. And just quickly kind of jumping into our own experience at GetBlock.io. I mean, that's really how it started for us. I mean, we were a bunch of miners. We were kind of dabbling in, what's the open source software that's out there, whether it was an open source miner or some of the Stratum servers and things like that. We were really trying to build our own pool. And ErgoHack 2 was going on, and that's, Karat, kind of, and I'll let him tell his story really quick, but he was working on a project. We kind of caught eyes on it, and it was something that we saw value in, and we got behind it in a major way. And fast forward a year later, here we are. We have sub pools. They're up and functioning. We've continued to build on them, and we'll continue to build from there. So I think always start with the concept, the idea, and I think you'll be surprised where it takes you. So with that said, Karat, why don't you jump in real quick and give a, kind of a little bit of a background on, how you got into Ergo and, how you started your first project with ErgoHack 2 to where we are today.
Yeah, sure. So I started with Ergo around a year ago. I don't exactly remember how I found it, but I was kind of pretty interested in it, and I myself had started mining. And I noticed that, I tended to get rewards pretty slowly because I had just one GPU. So I decided to come up with this idea of these things called subpools where, miners could kind of trustlessly pool their hash rate together in a way to get faster rewards. So that was kind of the original idea. And I had submitted it for ErgoHack 2. During that time, the ErgoHacks were around like 3 days. So I was really scrambling to get everything done. I did end up getting around like second place, I think. So that was nice. And after that, I was kind of looking for testers and people who were interested in it. And I found you, Rob, found Vinny, and we had this little group chat. Was it Dark Cave Miners?
Yeah.
That's what it was called. And yeah, so we all kind of got together and we kind of realized, the power of this subpooling concept, and we started to build on it. And it was integrated into GetBlock.io, and the rest is history.
Yeah, very cool. And again, I think, taking a step back to, identifying that original concept. I don't think there's any bad ideas. Throw them out there, see if people are interested. And like I said, I think you'll be surprised. I think it will take you a lot further than you may have originally expected. So let's shift gears a little bit. So I think, there was a major event in cryptocurrency in general just last week, right? Or actually
Really? Was
just
there?
a few days ago, right? And I think it's turned a lot of things upside down, right? There's been some recent activity on all blockchains, but the Ethereum merge, right? That kicked in just about 5-6 days ago, and it's been quite a event, right? I think for Ergo itself, we saw a massive influx in hash rate, right? We were exceeding, I don't know, where were we? What was the right number, right? So I mean,
I think we touched 400 terahash or something.
Yeah, but I'm not sure. I mean, there was some API glitches with pools. I mean, it was chaos. I mean, let's face it, right? Two miners, the biggest pool, had to shut down for a little bit and literally reset their entire back end. So I mean, massive influx. I think that obviously most blockchains hit an all-time high. But there was a lot of ramifications that came from that. So, really just wanted to kind of get everyone here. What was kind of your opinion of the recent merge, and, how it impacted not only the blockchain, but yourselves as miners or developers? Maybe Jesper, maybe you start.
Well, as a miner, obviously, profits have been crushed completely. A lot of miners are shutting off. Everyone is scrambling for the next profitable coin. It also stress tested the networks. I think what's interesting, I looked at some of the transaction metrics and the address growth, for example, on Ergo. So it's brought in a massive influx of new people to the community, which is great. I think it has also highlighted to a lot of people, especially, and which was the focus of the community chat today, a lot, the difficulty adjustment mechanism of Autolycus 2, as it is right now. And a lot of people are kind of, they're used to instant difficulty adjustments because they've been mining ETH for so long. But people are only now trying to understand the security assumptions of the difficulty adjustments that's connected to Autolycus, and how it kind of protects the chain from different kinds of attacks. And a lot of people in the short term will be upset with this, but I think as we learn and try to kind of come to terms with the hash rate kind of leveling off, there'll be a more steady thing. But it has highlighted that it's a new age for miners, and it's a new age because if we are going through a bear cycle right now and people are looking for profitability, there'll be a big incentive to create things that will generate extra revenue for miners. So what I thought was interesting is that Flux is bringing persistent storage. So basically, like a storage thing where you can put it on the Flux nodes, so people can store things like through the blockchain. And I think what I think is going to happen for Ergo, which ErgoDex was, or Spectrum as they're called now, kind of pioneered, is the off-chain bots. That they basically made some off-chain logic that people can run themselves to help process transactions and claim the rewards for processing those extra transactions, which adds scalability to the network. It's kind of like a decentralized sharding thing actually going on, and also adds extra incentive for miners. So I think like if people working on ErgoHack now think about the concept of the off-chain bots of Spectrum, I think there's really something there to create extra incentives for miners to be on the Ergo blockchain, because there's a lot more to do than just mine Ergo straight and secure the network that way. There's additional things you can do.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that, for miners to really take a deep dive into the blockchain, understand some of the DeFi tools behind it, I think is important, right? Because I think the general mentality of most miners, and it's not everyone obviously, but you mine your coins, right? You mine, you receive rewards, and at some point you need to liquidate, right? You need to cover electricity costs, which are at an all-time high right now. You may have infrastructure costs, obviously the equipment costs they get there. So I mean, from a business sense, you get it, right? Miners, they need to mine, they get their rewards, they need to sell off. But I think we're in an interesting time right now with the market being where it is and being in a bear market, where I think it's even more critically important for people to dig into the DeFi. And like you said, I mean, there's these off-chain bots, there's staking within Ergo, obviously a little bit biased on our side, but exploring smart pools and taking advantage of some of the additional incentives that we provide. There's liquidity pools. I mean, there's so many things that I think miners could dig into a little bit more. And it may not cover all their costs, right? Or the delta between with what they would have been earning, say, even a few months ago versus today. But it may help, and it may also allow people to get into maybe some of these tokens, which may be a little bit more speculative, but could have a higher return or reward in the end. So, and I think, as ErgoHack 5 kind of comes into play, and, these are fresh thoughts in people's mind, I think, use that, right? And in your development and, your creative ideas and finding, different concepts to build, new tools for miners. So that's I think a vision from the miner side, but maybe turn it over to Karat or Luca from the development side of things. I mean, how are your feelings with what occurred, obviously with the merge? Obviously difficulty has increased, block times have slowed down. Maybe Karat, do you want to kind of jump in from the development side and maybe elaborate a little bit on how not only that may impact some of the tools that are being built on the ecosystem, but maybe also how it provides some security measures and some benefits to the blockchain as a whole.
Yeah, so I mean, in general, the difficulty problem has kind of been talked about. Even today, we had that community discussion. I do feel like it's a little bit painful right now, but to some extent, I think it should have been expected, I guess. The merge is kind of this huge event. So, chaos is expected at that point. And, right now we're seeing kind of the cooldown after the initial day where we had, what was it, like 10-second block times. Now the block times are kind of extending past the average 2 minutes. So
I think we're at 6 minutes or something.
Yeah. So it's definitely painful now, but there are reasons why the difficulty adjustment has been made this way to prevent certain attacks, specifically where certain miners or mining pools try to adjust the timestamp of the block to mess with the difficulty on it. So, those kind of attacks are what you're trying to avoid with Ergo. And, Ergo tries to generally be as secure as possible. So that's probably some of the reason why the difficulty adjustment works that way. But, who knows? We'll see what happens. There's talks about people thinking about hard forks and everything. Personally, I think it's best to wait and see because the merge just happened. Only been a few days.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think, and a lot of this obviously came up in the community discussion that was held today, but obviously no knee-jerk reactions. Nobody wants to, change an entire protocol or even some of the developments that are behind it, like subpool. I mean, we're getting a lot of requests to change our pool and how, the pool handles things. And, maybe that's something that we'll explore, but I think the important thing is not to have a knee-jerk reaction. Understand what's going on, right? I mean, it hasn't even been a week since the merge. So let things settle down, let miners find their homes, let, the hash rate settle. And there's things that, not only GetBlock can do, I think there's things that can be done within the Ergo ecosystem, right? And it may require an EIP, and, there's been talks about forks. But I don't think sitting there and, I don't want to say whining about it, but I do. I think that there's other ways to find solutions, and now's the time where the community should come together, put their heads together. There's a lot of really smart people within the community, and let's come up with some creative solutions that we can present to the entire community, get consensus behind it, and if it makes sense, that's something that we all look forward to, or we all look to move forward collectively as a community. Luca, any words that you have to share just regarding the merge and kind of your thoughts on what transpired?
Well, so as a dev, I'm also a dev at ErgoPad, and on the night of the merge, I was like up late watching it live happen, so that was really fun. But yeah, it's true. Definitely, the miners got the shorter end of the stick with respect to Ergo. Again, it's also been only like less than a week, so I think it's hard to say really anything definitive until like probably a couple of months out. So yeah, so I know people are like worried about their rewards not being really low, but I think you should focus on the long term. And that's also that's what the blockchain is for. It's not just to make a quick buck, or Ergo isn't about that anyway. It's about building something that lasts for many decades and hopefully more than that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think you hear, people panic immediately, right? I think it's the human thing to do, right? Your mind goes to panic. But I think, taking a step back and kind of understanding what's transpiring, understanding why the difficulty is increasing and how it will come back down. I think, that education piece is important. And, if there's people out there looking to kind of get a deeper understanding about it, again, reach out to the community. I think there's plenty of individuals that understand it, will give you, as deep of an understanding as you want, or, a very high level understanding. So I think, there's a lot more to come, which may be a good segue kind of into the next topic here. So, mining tools, obviously, we're all here today. We've kind of, I think, paved the way for, developers to kind of continue exploring tools for miners. And, being that the next ErgoHack that's upcoming is really about mining and minting, what are some of the additional innovations that could be built outside of what's, currently available today, whether it's on the Ergo ecosystem or just, something that, may be out there already on a different blockchain that could provide value to Ergo. So Jesper, you spoke a little bit about the bots. Anything else that you could think of that may be a good tool or something you'd like to see yourself, being a miner?
Well, so we talked about shortly about, because everyone is running GuapSwap themselves. They're running from their own rigs, but we were talking about to further decentralize the process to actually create a bot, so people could run their own bots, so everybody could be swapping each other's swap boxes, basically. So you have rewards for doing work for other people, which was very cool. I think that I've been thinking about that, for example, Flux has going for it, which is obviously hard to do. I don't know their emission schedule or how Flux actually works, if it has a fixed supply or whatever. But Flux has an incentive program for running nodes. And there's basically no incentive to run your own node for anyone. Like, it's just, okay, so I run a node and
Now what? Yeah.
now that's just, I'm contributing to the ecosystem, but I'm not getting anything for it, which is why I heard Kushti say that we want to run more nodes to basically get the Explorer more secure and more efficient and whatever. And but for example, when you saw Flux having the cost for getting Flux nodes, they cut it in, made it 10 times as cheap. They saw that their nodes all over the world explode. So I think if people would think about some incentive structure to run nodes, whatever that might be, some incentive structure to run oracles. I know Oracle Protocol 2.0 is coming. And I think maybe these off-chain bots, right? If you were to do something that I think would really be able to proliferate them, is right now you have to go to GitHub, you need to download Docker and a Java runtime environment to run these bots. If someone would make a simple build that would run on Linux, that you could just plug into something like Hive OS or Simple Mining OS, that would be that would make that thing go to so many people, and kind of start people thinking about, oh, there are these off-chain bots, they can process transactions here. Could I make that for someone else? And everybody would start running them. It's kind of hard to hey, come up with a spectacular new idea that no one has ever heard about.
Yeah.
But I think about incentive structures to the nodes. I think is a big one, and oracles too. Oracles will be a big thing with all the new people here.
Yeah, no, I agree.
We need data sources.
Yeah, I agree. And it's funny that one of the reasons I got into Ergo was actually through the nodes. I was very into, IoT devices and very lightweight devices, and, have a bunch of Raspberry Pis, and, what can I put them to use for, and kind of explored, node processing within blockchains. And that's, really how I gained my entry into Ergo. But I agree, it was I'm running this thing, what am I getting for it, right? And obviously it's low resource utilization, but at the end of the day, I mean, I think that there are some potential options that could be built into the node that could again provide that additional incentive to anyone, whether it's miners or just people in general. But I also agree that the user experience is everything, right? Having, a tool that's very easy to use, it's maybe a simple UI, a couple clicks of a button. I think that's really what, really provides a lot of value in the long run, where you kind of go back to command line and things like that. Yeah, it works. There's a lot of people that, especially miners, are running command line every day pretty much. But, I think that user experience helps kind of build the path, and really helps with the adoption as well, right? And making it so your grandmother could use it, so to speak. So Karat, why don't you kind of jump in? I know we're working on a couple interesting things, and actually looking to submit a project to ErgoHack 5. So maybe why don't you, from the developer side of things, talk a little bit about some of the potential tools that can be built, whether it's something that we're currently building, or just maybe something that may be a good idea for others to build. I mean, there's things like Mev, right? That is really powerful in Ethereum. Are there things like that that could be built within the Ergo ecosystem that could be beneficial to miners?
So I think Mev is probably a little bit harder on Ergo because of the way the transactions work and the way UTXO works in general. But I've been thinking, one thing that might be kind of cool is, if you remember back a little bit, there's kind of this race to see who could do the larger airdrop kind of thing with me Goreng, like Common and all that, and Neta as well. But miners on Ergo actually have the ability to include larger transactions into blocks than normal people could send. So it might be cool to have sort of a service for miners, where people can pay miners to include their transaction into the block, and you could put a huge airdrop inside there or something like that. That's one thing I've kind of been thinking about. Sort of some lotteries for finding certain blocks maybe would also be cool. But yeah, in regards to what we're doing, we're kind of just trying to find ways to further decentralize mining, and really create an ecosystem for miners to kind of get started in DeFi. I think that's important, and a lot of miners right now, they may kind of just be looking at Ergo as sort of you mine it, you sell it, whatever. But I think the true value for miners will come when they start entering DeFi and really start learning how to use the tools that Ergo provides to their advantage, to make more profit, and kind of use their position as the creators of liquidity to really leverage that position and start earning more. Because I think there's a lot of potential there, and that's kind of what we're trying to focus on during this hackathon. Building towards that.
No, great overview. Thank you for that. Yeah, and taking a step back to kind of including larger transactions into blocks. I think that's for many who may not understand that. So obviously there's fees, right? They get processed with these transactions, and when you do a large airdrop, like we're doing some smaller ones. They're probably maybe 1,100 addresses or something like that, but you pay 0.001 erg for every single transaction. It adds up, right? And it could create some additional incentive where finding a way to maybe include those blocks that have the larger transactions in them could be an interesting use case, and something that may be interesting for someone to build. For me, one idea that I had, and I think this would be really cool, is obviously we have smart pools and sub pools, and the sub pools, one portion of sub pooling, obviously it was built to create different payout schemes and different payout methods. But obviously, we're distributing some native Ergo assets within our sub pools, and a lot of those assets, they can be staked, right? And Karat, I think you and I have had some kind of side conversations about this, but it would be cool for a miner to be able to mine their Ergo pad, let's say, and instead of it going into their wallet, it goes directly into their staking contract. So, kind of skips the step of, having to log on the Spectrum, or I'm sorry, ErgoPad.io, and doing the whole process where you're staking your coins. Well, maybe it could be some off-chain tool that, does that automated for you. And you basically everything you mine, it's going into a staking contract. It's sitting there for, a time period. So you're not penalized, but, within that time period, you could be earning some significant APY, right? I mean, I've seen ErgoPad, it's been, I think right now in the 90% APY. So, I mean, it's a really great way to earn additional incentive, and, kind of like Jesper alluded to, having that user experience and not having to access 3 different sites to do something. I think that could go a long way for miners, right? So just, even something as simple as taking a step out of the process, right? Could be something that, could be extremely valuable to miners and something that, they could be seeking for. So, as people are kind of out there looking for ideas and concepts, think outside of the box. It's not just, you don't have to build a mining pool or this whole, unique process. It could be something that's very simple as, a simple swap, right? So, with that said, what about you, Luca? Any thoughts on your end? I know you kind of dabble in multiple spaces, working for ErgoPad and obviously being on the GuapSwap team. Any concepts that you can think of?
So I don't know. I don't remember where I heard this idea from. It might have been on a Hash It Out episode, but it was like for miners having something like a bot app store sort of thing where it could be like a UI and then all of the different bots that are available in the ecosystem, like they could just download them and then like run them. And like it would be like, and then since they would require you to like run a node, it would sort of like serve as like as an incentive. So something like that would be kind of interesting. I know there's also
no, I was gonna say that would be really cool. No, continue.
I know like there's a Babel Fee EIP being worked on. I think there's potential there for miners to be involved as well. Yeah.
You want to, just for those who don't know about Babel Fees, you want to elaborate a little bit on that, on what Babel Fees are and, how that functions versus just standard fees?
Yeah, sure. So like if you're just sending like someone some erg, you have to pay. Every transaction requires a transaction fee that goes to the miners. But let's say your wallet only has like ErgoPad, for example, and you don't have enough erg to pay for the transaction fee, or if you just wanted to have someone wanted to make like a SigUSD only wallet for people who aren't like blockchain savvy, then you need somehow a way to pay for the miner fee. And so Babel Fees essentially would be like a way for the wallet to access some box that had the right token in it, with the erg in it, and then the user could like use that erg in it in exchange for some amount of their token in their wallet, and use that erg to pay for the transaction fee. And so the EIP, the Babel Fee EIP, is a contract that's trying to review it and figure it out to do it the right way. And once it's approved, then that functionality would be built into the app kit, and then dApps could integrate it into their dApps to take advantage of the Babel Fee service. And then the other side of it is people providing liquidity, so creating these Babel boxes with erg in them, and the incentive for them is that they get to pick the token that they would want their erg to be swapped for, and then also like charge a higher fee than what would be available like on a Spectrum DEX, for example.
No, I think it's a really cool initiative, and for my personal experiences with it, when we launched the smart pool, we had Neta only, and people were earning Neta, and then they were trying to go onto Spectrum and basically swap, and they couldn't because they didn't have any erg. So
right. And someone was trying to use GuapSwap to do that, but it wasn't built for that.
Yeah. I was gonna say, Jesper, you got your hand up. You wanna?
No, I just wanted to the idea that Luca was proposing, like a dApp store for bots. If people are interested in that idea, make sure that whatever you build runs on Linux, because HiveOS, for example, Ubuntu runs on Ubuntu. So if you are going to make something like that, which would also be cool if we could have someone implement that whole NepoPow idea where you can bootstrap a node with one of those super blocks. So it's super quick to get up and running. It's lightweight and works with HiveOS. That would be like amazing for the whole bot ecosystem.
Yeah, I mean, for me, and I say this, obviously on our, Dark Cave Miners episodes, but there's a lot of tools out there. There's a lot of functionality within the ecosystem, and I think, as we continue to build, right, the community continues to build. it's finding ways to bring all these tools together so they can interact with each other, interact with the tools like Hive OS, and so understanding not only what you're building today, but how can I branch out from this idea, this original concept, and make it function with everything. I think it's something important to consider as you kind of start your initial development. So we've talked a lot about tools, right? And I think there's a lot of interesting concepts, a lot of interesting use cases out there. But and as we learned as a mining pool, having these tools are great, and I think it paves the path for innovation in the DeFi space. But I think one of the biggest challenges, even for us, is how do we get miners to care about these tools, right? How do we get them to learn about the tools, be educated about them, and not just, oh, look, it's Ergo. I've heard about Ergo. Oh, I know 2 miners. They're the biggest pool out there, and I'm just going to jump on that and sit back, and I don't have to worry about a thing. Well, obviously that doesn't promote decentralization. It's something not only as a community member, just being kind of in this space. It's decentralization's important to me. I think it's important to the community as a whole. So any thoughts around that? As the I think the typical MO of a miner is let me pick one of the top mining pools. I get my erg, I sit back and relax. How do we get them more interested in some of these unique tools that have been developed?
If I want to weigh in on that, moving my hash rate to get block initially was very frustrating. Back in the summer of 2021, I was mining with hero miners, which I think at the time was like the second or third biggest pool. Then we have like regular rewards, everything is just boom, boom, boom. It's going. And then you go on a smaller pool. Like I think GetBlock right now is the 7th biggest.
Something, yeah, it's changing daily, but yeah.
And like the base part of my mind is like, the rewards, they're not coming as often. Will it actually average out like people say? I'm getting impatient here. I want to see the rewards. So I think that understanding first that there will be a large swath of miners who are there for instant gratification, and they just care about regular rewards. They don't care about 51% attacks. They just want to get their regular rewards. And because running rigs is a stressful business. There are fans that stop working, and power supplies that crap out, and miners that won't run, and CPUs that overheat, and there are all these things. Like everything should just run smoothly. But I think if you want people to care about the things, you need to think about incentives. Like the only reason why I got into the whole GuapSwap thing is like, okay, I want to get into DeFi, so my ERG just doesn't have to sit in my wallet and not appreciate. I wanted to do something while it's there, right? But I couldn't get into DeFi because every time I made a swap, the government would take half of whatever I swapped to, So I had to find an incentive to find a solution there. And that's why GuapSwap came about. Now, others people can just get paid out in the token they want, or soon a portfolio of the tokens they want, and they can get into DeFi, right? So I think getting people to care about the tooling is to make incentive structures. And I know that's a very lofty concept, but think about what makes people use it, and especially miners. Like there has to be something in it for them to care. Simple game theory, I think, is an important concept to have in mind.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think, keeping things as simple as possible is what's going to help you win in the long run, because the more complex things get, the more people need to do extra steps. It's, they kind of weigh. It's, the power of convenience, right? I mean, you can go to a convenience store and you'll probably pay double the price than you would at a grocery store. but you don't have to go the 10 extra minutes away or whatever the case may be. You don't have to wait online. So I mean, you look at everything in kind of real world scenario. It's, how do you build that into, what we're building here today? So no, I agree. I think, simplicity definitely goes a long way. And then, like you said, building that incentive. Who is your end user and what's important to them? Karat, Luca, any words to add to that?
Yeah. So on the decentralization side of that question, I'd say, something important and kind of what we're going to be working on for the hackathon is really trying to do decentralized mining as much as possible and put it on chain so that, the risk of 51% attacks from, big pools like two miners and a pool, whichever one is first place now. I think decentralizing mining in that way and decentralizing mining pools is going to be really important. And incentive structures do matter there because, nobody's going to switch over unless there's incentive to do so. And that kind of incentive means that, the user experience needs to be, as similar as possible to normal mining. And, there needs to be profit incentive as well, including tokens and, extra ways to get money in the end, right? So, what we're working on is kind of a way to put mining on chain, sort of similar to NEPA POWs in that sense. Instead of super blocks, we'll be having things like super shares, but, I'll let our project, our hackathon project, go more in depth into that. But yeah, I do think decentralizing mining pools is going to be really important coming in the future.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously, being on your team, I couldn't agree more. But you look at mining and from a centralized aspect, and it is very centralized, right? I mean, yeah, obviously, granted, it's probably more decentralized than a lot of the other financial systems that are out there in the world. But when you look at it from just the sheer mining aspect, right? Mining software, it's all closed source. There's usually, a handful of miners that can be used for that specific blockchain. Mining pools in general, right? They're all very centralized. Being a pool operator ourselves, I mean, it's, we control the rewards. I mean, I hate to say it that way, but we control how things work on the back end, and obviously we're more transparent by putting a lot of these things on chain. But I don't think we're not fully decentralized. Well, we won't say that we are. We're obviously a decentralized pool, and we have decentralized incentives and decentralized goals in mind. But I think that there are many ways to continue decentralizing. And I think keep an eye out. I think that the hackathon for us will be kind of our first pass at kind of getting this project out there, and we're excited to do so. And I think we'll continue to build from here. So I think that's kind of maybe last thoughts here before we all part ways. It's tough times right now, right? I mean, I think from an economic standpoint, we're in a bear market. From a mining standpoint, things are a little bit diminished from a rewards and profitability standpoint. So, I think, we look at it and it's like, all right, well now, it's a slow time for us. This is the time to, focus in on things, keep building, really, position yourselves for the future. But I'd like to hear everyone else's opinion on, as things kind of get really tight in this market, what incentivizes everyone here to, continue building in this, bear market that we're experiencing right now.
The Lambo, Rob. Purely the Lambo. I want it. I want to hear what Luca has to say.
Why do I stay? Because it's fun. I think it's really interesting. I'm not like, I don't have a huge run many mining rigs, and I don't like mine as a business. So so I sympathize with miners who are like not making a profit, and that's like a real thing they have to deal with. But as a developer, I'm staying for the long term. I enjoy the community, talking with other devs, and just being around to see like all the different projects that are gonna pop up.
Very well said. Hey, and Karat, how about you? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I've been here for like a year now, almost. Actually, probably very close to a year, maybe like a few days off. But yeah, I mean, I plan on continuing to build. I like the community. Um, I like ErgoScript, just developing on Ergo in general. It's pretty fun. There's a lot of things that I feel like haven't been discovered yet, and a lot of places where improvement could happen. So I think it's pretty exciting to see all the new development on Ergo, and every day feels like there's a new project coming out now. It was not like that a year ago, at least from what I remember. Not at all.
Definitely not.
No.
So yeah, it's been great developing on Ergo, and I plan to continue regardless of difficulty or whatever problems we will come to face in the future.
Yeah, well said. I think, one important thing to keep in mind, and then we'll, kind of end it from here, is that Ergo is still very new, right? I mean, it's what, 2 years old, roughly, maybe a little bit more than 2 years old. And
2019, right?
yeah, so I mean, look, there's still a lot more that can be developed. I mean, you look back at Ethereum in its early stages, there a lot has been developed since, obviously Ethereum first started. So I think from a development and a mining standpoint, I think we're still in the early days. I think that there's a lot more to come. I think there's a lot more to be built and a lot more to be developed. And I think, having events like ErgoHack is really important, because I think that, really kind of it gets the word out there. People, tend to gain attention or, attraction to the blockchain. And they start building. And, as, we've all experienced and kind of, built out from our original concept, I think others will find, the kind of the same, self-fulfilling, experience, and, be able to, have a really rewarding, experience here on Ergo. So, again, back to my original concept, or my original comment, start with a concept. It doesn't need to be a fully built package that you submit to ErgoHack. Start with an idea, get a proposal out there, and start building around it. And I think that many will find that you'll find a home here at Ergo, and you'll find a really great community with open arms willing to support. So Jesper, any last words from you?
I was just deep in thought about, I think people should think about all the stuff that has been built on the Ethereum virtual machine and in Solidity, and think about how little of that actually exists on extended UTXO. So it seems like there's a huge spectrum, like a plethora of things that have yet to be built in the language of ErgoScript, and the kind of like porting those ideas into the I wouldn't say that EUTXO is more secure, but into the concept of EUTXO and getting that to work is just what I would consider low-hanging fruit, right? There's a lot to just be converted. Like we've seen our first, I wouldn't call it like an Aave clone, but like a lending protocol. There are actually two now. There's ErgoLend and Doc Pools, which is growing out now. So just think about all the things that have been built on the EVM and start porting those over. And as soon as that ball gets rolling, there will be like new ideas that spring out of that. And that's definitely exciting times in the bear market, because the people who stay around in the bear market and build will be the big winners once the next bull cycle starts.
They'll be the one with the Lambos, right?
Maybe.
You never know.
Not financial advice.
Karat, how about you? Any last words?
Yeah, I'd say just whatever you decide to do for the hackathon, I think just follow through with it and keep building on it. Also check out Deco if you don't know much about ErgoScript or Ergo in general. I teach a class there, and obviously Luca and Jesper, they kind of got into developing on Ergo from there. So I think it's a great resource. And if you want to start developing on Ergo, I think it's a great way to start, get introduced to things.
Yeah, and I mean, a funny, quick, little story. Even for me, I've been you guys just started a new semester, and I listened in on the first class, and I mean, even if you think you know it all, I say, listen in. It's a free class. You pick up a couple things, you learn something, right? You learn a little bit about what happens behind the scenes, right? So I think, even if you're not a developer, if you're interested in, getting into development, I think that it's a really good resource. And if you can't make the classes, I believe they're all recorded, right, Karat? So I think it's something that may be shared on YouTube at a later date. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think this semester we're not recording them, but all of the classes from last semester are recorded, and you can check all of those out. There's
Both
lots
the
of great
layman
info.
and the advanced class.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good. And then Luca, last but not least, any final words?
Yeah, I just think that the merge is a sort of a silver lining, is that it's a great opportunity for miners to put more thought into do more research into like different blockchains, and hopefully Ergo is one that they get interested in.
All right, well said. All right, guys. Well, I think we've been going for quite some time here. We'll cut it off here. Just want to say thank you to everyone out there who may be interested in participating in ErgoHack 5. We wish you all good luck, and we hope to see you guys in the future.